Hi painters, this is seriously important stuff right here. As you've read in the modules, local color is the most difficult kind of painting that there is for a variety of reasons. You're having to operate on many different levels at the same time. One of the things as an artist you want to master is not only realism, but realism using local color, which means from observation matching exactly the color, the value, the temperature, and the intensity of an area that you're working on in relation to each other as well as within itself. The more skilled you become as a painter, the quicker it is to match something exactly. I wanted to show you how to set up your palette, very important, and how to mix within that palette to achieve a degree of accuracy in your color matching and mixing. When you're working on a subject, from the pictures I supplied, I specifically picked subjects that had complex color that could be mixed with the three primaries in black and white that we have. You want to master the mixing of those before you ever attempt to buy tubes. One of the worst things people do is they go out and buy flesh tone tube of paint, or they go out and buy brown, or they go out and buy burnt sienna or raw umber before they know how to mix it themselves. You want to really break it down and work solely from these three hues and black and white before you move on to something like that. So there's no shortcuts here. A lot of times we're going to mix in a pool of white or a pool of yellow simply because they get taken over quickly. So from the wheel and from the color mixing that you did for earth tones and complements, you probably have a better sense now of which colors take over and which don't. And then from your black and white studies, you get a sense of value and how important all those steps of gray in between white and black are, and how they can be used as well to create tints, shades, and tones in a monochromatic sense. In this area, we're going to start always with 6 things. Anytime you're about to start a painting, and also for this warm-up, because I'm going to have you do a warm-up here. You're going to start with all of these so you have options. You always put out black, even if it's just a little. You want to always put out a ton of white, and then you always want to put your blue, yellow, and red, and then a nice pile of mud, which we talked about was created from neutrals as well as from making earth tones, because there will always be earth tones and neutrals in a local color study. Unless you're doing something super gaudy, which is rare that you don't have at least some browns or tans or, beiges or whatever you want to call them. Every brown is different. Every beige is different. I remember one time I was leaving a rental property and we had to remove a red dot from a white carpet. And when we removed it, it left an empty spot. And it turns out it wasn't a white carpet. So I had to mix the exact color of that carpet and stain that little area so that the landlord didn't see it. And you couldn't even see it. It was gone because of my knowledge of mixing color. So interesting. Got our deposit back. But anyway, that's different. But it's I didn't hurt the carpet, but it was like the same concept. Like I knew immediately this is what I needed to do to stain those fibers to match. I'm having you guys pick one object. It could be a piece of cardboard, which I really recommend because each piece of cardboard is different. Or you can use a table that is okay to get marks on, or you can use your hand, which is really fun. In other words, like if you were doing a portrait, you would use your hand as a guide and then adjust the temperatures to whoever your subject is. So it's any surface that you can find that you find interesting, but try to get a color that is a larger area. You don't want it to be gaudy blue or anything like that. Try to find like a piece of wood ideally without texture, but it's okay if it has a little bit. But you want to, we're just matching the flat color, which is not a normal thing we do in a painting, but in this case, it's a start. It'll help you see the palette part. From there, we're going to start doing the nuances of three-dimensionality. So I'm using this piece of cardboard. It's flat, and I'm going to match it flat. But if I had this cardboard in a still life with different kinds of optical color and light source, it would change. Even when I fold it, see how it changes? It's darker here now, it's lighter there now, there's texture. So when we do the actual painting, we're gonna have to make a pile of this color and not have the pile be one. Biggest problem people make. I walk by, it's flat. They're like, why is it flat? I look at the palette. If the palette has a big pile of brown that is not varied, has no options within it, no value options, no temperature options, or maybe just enough of one but not the whole gamut, then they just start filling it in flat like it's a design. But it's not. Like even something like this is a roll, like one of those paper towel rolls. See how it's lighter here? It gets bluer here, it gets whiter here. That's how you show, and you're going to make piles within piles when you're working on a certain area. So it's very tricky. Local color is all about matching. They call it local color because it means the average, the normal color that we see under normal light conditions that the eye experiences. Like if you see an apple in daylight, later at night it might appear blue because of the light. Local color is how it appears under normal lighting. So we really have to capture that from observation through capturing temperature, top of the wheel, bottom of the wheel, value. You know the wheel is a value scale plus the value of black and white you have to deal with. You have to do saturation. How bright is it? How dull is it? Because the minute you add something to something, it changes the saturation, especially things that come out of the tube. They come out fully saturated, they get desaturated anytime you add anything to them. Whether it's an opposite, an analogous color, side by side, or black or white, we have to understand those elements while we're painting. And something may appear to you to be blue. If it appears that way, put in blue. Trust your gut, trust your hunch. It will play out. Usually every single thing you paint will have all 6 of these, all of them. You wouldn't think so at first, but when you study it, you'll get it. And you can do this multiple times with multiple things. But just take a look. This is a brown cardboard. Like you might just go, okay, it's brown. But then you look at my hand and it's kind of pink. And then you look at this table and it's kind of yellow. So it's a starting point. Now, you may say this is brown, but if you really think about it, to me, it's blue, it's gray, it's red, it's green, it's white, it's yellow. It's very complex. And you have to really dig deep and know that almost always all of these are in there. So the great thing about cardboard is you can paint right on there. You can mix, if you want to do your hand, you mix like that and just use the other hand as a guide. But I'm going to do this, and it's a process. Now, as you know, everything gets dark really fast. So just because I can tell there's white in here, there is some white in here. And the only reason I know that is it feels gray, and gray cannot exist without white. So I'm going to start in a pool of white and just show you this process. You're going to take a picture of this and post it with your warm-up scales for local color, and we can see that way whether it is correct or what it needs. We're also going to use this as a tester, so I can test it and see what does it need. And if we're in a group of people, it's helpful because everybody can see with a different eye what's missing. But again, if you haven't used all 6 of these, there's probably something going on, unless you pick something too gaudy. We really want to pick something complex. But look at this, like this brush, this is like a yellow, I mean it's a red orange, but it's not bright. So if you picked something with that color, be very different than this. And color in relation to other color is important too. If I'm working on a painting and this is next to something bright white, this will appear darker. If it's next to something yellow, it will appear lighter. So these are all the reasons why local color is so challenging. All right, so I'm gonna start just to show you the process and how you wanna have piles within piles. Okay. And this is also, every time you sit down to work on this painting, you're gonna be doing that. Okay, I'm looking at this and I'm gonna start in a pool of white. Now, again, I'm not using the whole pile, ever. If you use the whole pile of any of these, you lose the option. And then you have to grab for the tubes. If you set up properly here, you don't have to keep grabbing for the tubes. Keep these big enough, and you can use 2 sheets of palette paper so that you can grab the pure, or you can grab the pile within the pure that you made. So it should get actually pretty messy. I'm gonna do this in the middle. So I'm looking at this. I know there's yellow in it, but I'm gonna kind of go more in the obvious direction. Okay. Now, since I'm trying to pull some of these piles out so I don't have to mess them up. And I'm working within a pool of, that way I can use this and not go into this. Okay, this is the mud. I know this is in here. This is also a great way to immediately tell if your mud is off. My mud is too purpley red. So later on I'll add more yellowish to it. Now I've got this kind of pretty pink color. But it's not neutralized. So what does that mean? What is pink? Pink is red. What's opposite red? Green. Do I have a green? No. So that means I have to put some blue and some yellow. And of course I got to use more yellow than blue because blue takes over. And I'm only doing it with my finger because I'm trying to do this quickly so I don't talk forever and I'd have to dip it, wipe it, you know, my palette knife. All right, so I'm going to add this green in here now. It's instinct. It's instinct. And you don't want your pile to start getting huge because then it's just like the yellow. You're going to end up with this massive pile of unusable random paint. So I'm going to spread it out because who knows, I might need that light blue pile as I go on this thing. I'm not sure. If not, I might use it on another object that I'm painting. Okay, now it feels really blue. So I go, okay, what's the opposite of blue? Orange. See, I'm not doing the obvious yet. But see how the value is still light? So now at this point I can go like this. And what do you notice right away? Is it too light? Is it too dark? Is it too blue? It's step 1. It's too light. And it's slightly too blue. So by adding orange, I am also changing the value of it. Now, see how I have this now? Instead of mushing it with this and ending up with this giant random pile, waste of paint, I now have within the pile a pile. I'm going to pull this away so that I can doctor this one up, but I still have this one as an option, as well as that one. And when you're doing your actual painting, believe me, you're going to be glad you got something to grab onto. If you're painting something 3-dimensional and all of a sudden it shifts, if it's light there and dark there, you're going to need to quickly scan your palette and go, okay, what is that? And then it's there. Oh, metal's good if you want to use a piece of metal for this. You can't really go wrong. I mean, everything has complex color in it. And when you do this enough, you'll start walking around life going, oh, there's green in there. Oh, there's yellow in there. You exaggerate the version of the reality because you're artistically trained in your eye to go overboard to get right. So I'm going to go overboard to get right. I really like this. I'm going to make a little pile more of this. Now this might be right in color, but wrong in value. This might be right in color and value, but wrong in temperature. This might be right in all those ways and wrong in saturation. It's really, really challenging to do this project. So the more options we have in terms of temperature, value, intensity, saturation, all that stuff, I've got more bluish, I got more greenish, I got more grayish. Now I want to explore maybe some little darker. Oh, at first I wanted to go like this. Now see the difference in these two? It's kind of like when you do swatches on a paint wall and you're trying to decide what looks good. This is like a more greenish, that's more bluish. See how they sit on there differently. Now clearly the value is still too high key on both, but this one is slightly closer to where I'm headed. Now I can look at this and I go, you know, I feel like it's kind of red in there. I'm gonna put some red, but I'm not gonna use the whole pile because that might work for something else. And if I just slop it all together, I've missed not only millions of opportunities, but my picture's gonna be flat, but I'm gonna be out of paint. It's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Now I know this isn't accurate, but by putting this here, I can start to go, you know what, there is red in there. There is. But I'm getting a little mucky. I'm getting a little mucky, so I feel like I need to pull back into some brighter hues. And I like to reserve black kind of carefully, because if you use black, it just gets all gray. It takes over and then you're like, the color is gone. The black is only good for certain values, and honestly blue is a better color for black. If you want to make something dark, use blue or purple. A lot of teachers don't allow students to buy black, truly, because blue acts as black value-wise, and black is abused because it's like takes over and people use it, they think dark is black. It's not true. Mud and blue together is a gorgeous dark. You don't need it, even on a value scale, really. You could go almost to black by using blue or purple. So anyway, be cautious of that. Instead of doing that, I'm going to reach for a blue. You know, your palette's going to get more disorganized in local color than any other. Well, maybe in Impressionism it gets worse. Now look at this. Check that gorgeous color out. Now I got this periwinkle grayish thing. And guess what? I haven't even touched black. I haven't even touched the black, and I have these beautiful grays. Try that. Now I'm really off in terms of color. Now this looks too blue, this looks orange compared to it, but I wouldn't know until I put it there. However, the value's getting closer. The value's getting closer without even using the black. But I do know I will at some point have to use the black, just because. Like if you're doing a portrait, all of these are in there, and I know all of these are in there. But I'm going to push it further, getting closer to the value. I feel that orange. I feel orange. Like if you feel it, grab it. And so I'm going to make an orange over here. I always keep a little pure of the color so you don't mush it all, but all around your pure color, make a mess, because, oh, let's put this together. See, now here is what I'm talking about. I'm starting to make piles within piles. These are going to be even more important when you're painting an actual subject. But even here, like now I can go, okay, what's this? Oh, look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Now it's too purpley, yes, but look at the value. It's starting to be closer in value, and you can even put it against the wall and step back. But now I know that this area of my palette is the closest to accuracy in value so far. Okay, all right. Now, I'm feeling warm. If you can't pick up on orange, you might just feel warm. I'm feeling warm in this cardboard, so I'm going to pull yellow over here, which is kind of like an orange. And sometimes it's just wrong, and you can just mix it back in or leave it, because you might, again. But now see how this is the kind of palette I look for in the classroom. If you're doing local color and I walk by and your palette doesn't look like this, I know there's something wrong. If you've got one big giant pile of brown swirling around the middle and maybe a little, no. It's gotta be very, very thoughtful, complex, and experimental. Oh, look, I got closer. I hope you can see it like this, because it's, just do this. Not close, too light, 2 pink, getting closer in value, 2 blue, getting closer pink, and now I'm getting closer with whatever this is. Now it's a little murky to me. This feels cleaner and crisper to me. So that tells me I gotta go flat out color. Flat out. That means instead of going back into that gray, I'm gonna make an orange. You may end up making an orange or a green, depends on your picture. That's way too red, of course, as always. And I'm just gonna make an orange over here. Sometimes it calls for something really bright. Now clearly this is not the way, but look in here. Now I'm gonna take this, and within this pile now, I may get the color right and the value wrong. I may get the value right, but it's too gray. Oh, it's getting better. Now guess where I am? I'm in a space where there's a blue-black. There's a blue-black. I'm finally going over here tiny bit. And that way you have these options. You're like, okay, I got closer. So this is the pile. And you know, black takes over. See, it just did. So I went way crazy overboard here. Put too much and it was just a fleck. But look at this color now. This gives you an appreciation of neutrals and earth tones and all these unexpected things that happen. Huh. So take a look. It's like, okay, the value is a little dark. The temperature is a little cool. I'm feeling red and white. I probably won't need any black at all anymore. So you can see how even though I'm using all of these, some of these are more sparing. I'm going to go back to my mud. And again, I'm not plopping it in there. I'm making a pile to the side. And in the interim, look at this palette. I mean, it's just complex, you know, and all for a piece of cardboard. Okay, a little brownish. I'm going to put it in a pool of white so I can see. I'm not going to put it in here because that's too blue. I want to put it here and see what I'm dealing with. Now this is too light in value. I think with a little orange. It's like if you're on a streak, just keep going. Even if the values are wrong, at least you're working on the color, and then you know what the color is going to be. Too light, but better. All right. And as you know, I'm trying to go really slow so you can see the process, but it's like you just know after time, after spending a life of this, like I know this is green, but I want to show you, like this is the palette. This is how the palette should look when you're doing local color. And sometimes you need to organize it, like put your pile there and wipe around here, or move it, better yet, in your case, move it to another palette paper. Scoop up your piles and move in another one, throw this out and get a new one, because otherwise it gets all dried out. Getting there. So by the time you're done and you post this thing on the canvas, we should not be able to see where the paint is, the one that's right. Oh, this is the other thing. When you're doing your painting, always hold your palette knife up to the area. So by holding this up, I can see it without painting it on the picture directly. You know, here I have the option of doing that, but when you're painting, hold it up and go, okay, it's too gray, it's too dark, it's too cool. So you can use that. I don't want too much white, but if it starts to get overwhelming, again, scoop it off to the other one. And you know, when you're doing the actual painting, you're going to need all these elements in there. So it's like if you do piles within piles, it gives you options. Because this was too red before, I think that's what happened. My mud was too red. See, the great thing is when you have those bright colors around, you're able to draw upon them and still have all your neutrals in the middle. Because sometimes it just needs pure red or it needs pure orange. You see it, you gotta grab it. Sometimes you're on a roll and you just grab too much of something and then you've lost the trajectory. That's why it's good if you're gonna grab something, split it first. Like I grabbed too much black, so luckily I had more of my pile left. I'm really feeling the orange now. Like I wouldn't have thought, oh, orange, you know? Oh, it's getting there, it's getting there. Oh, it's hard to tell whether I should add blue or black, so I'm gonna split it and try one of each. Because, like, look, it took over, so I just lost that thought, but now I still have that. And I have this as an option. So you can see, just in this warm-up, how complex this is. This is like just the taste of what you're dealing with here. Not to mention accuracy in your project. I feel purple going on. Not to mention accuracy in your drawing, you know, getting everything where it goes, you know, on top of it you're working on the local color. So I get that it's the hardest of the three. And hopefully with all the check-ins and, see, this is getting there now. Oh, I'm getting close. Well, also depends if you're a perfectionist with this stuff, but oh shoot, I got blue in there. Now I gotta go over here. And then when you get it right, you gotta make sure you have enough of it. You know what I mean? To cover the area. Because then you have to mix it again. Little blue. Well, I'm gonna be here a while because I want this like, hello, you know, I want this like, I don't want to have it be not perfect. So I will spare you the, so of course, check this out. What color's gone? Yellow. And that's exactly what I need. Oh, I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. I feel like I need a bright, bright yellow. I'll take a picture of this because I'm going to keep going for a while. And I hope that's helpful. It's a challenging project, but I think you'll get a ton out of it.